a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome back. We'll start by taking the newspaper review, and we'll start with Daily Trust newspaper. And the lead story here says Buhari warns military as bandits kills cause in Zamfara. We have writers that says how gangs on dozens of motorcycles attacked villages, 43 victims buried, attackers raised hospital, and Zamfara government police mum. And, the president is actually warning the military. Recently he gave out an order saying, the bandits should be flushed out, kidnapped victims should, be rescued. And this happens in Zamfara state.
Yeah, I remember that there was an editorial done by the Daily Trust newspaper in which is saying enough of these orders because, after almost every attack we hear of orders and all that. But maybe with this warning that the president is giving, perhaps it will be different. We hope so.
Okay, so if he, because
have been too consistent.
Exactly, because now he's warning, and the Zamfara government and police are mum. If nothing is actually done, what happens?
Yeah,
what will he do about it?
Well, the president, most importantly, has the powers to hire and fire, as they say. So, and I think that is what a lot of Nigerians expect. Though the government spokesperson will always tell you that firing people is not necessarily the solution to maybe getting solution to this problem. But in the situation of hopelessness, and especially if, as you said, nothing is done, then people expect that the president should wield the big stick and maybe bring in new thinking. Because, if there will be this attack and then there will be a condemnation from the president and order for security agencies to track down the attackers, and then you don't hear anything until another attack happens. And Nigerians are now saying that there is even a format or that government spokesperson always only release, bring it out, dust it off, and update it into the new attack. And the hopelessness, and especially look at the state government and the police in the state. These are primarily the persons or the authorities responsible for this issue. And none of them is saying anything.
No, because it's actually one too many. 43 victims dead already. Even the hospital raised. You see pictures of communities where everything, the houses are being burnt down. And you expect these people who are now, hiding in IDPs to go back to the community. How do you expect them to rebuild?
Exactly. That's the problem. Because if and my major concern actually is that these are largely farming communities.
Exactly.
And we are heading into planting season. So with these people out of their communities, actually it is going to tell on all of us, because if there is less food cultivated, then there will be scarcity, and there will be high cost of food. And as I said, it will be telling on all of us, because ideally these places are like the food basket of the country, especially around Niger, Zamfara. These are places where there are majorly farming communities. We'll hope.
Another thing I think the government has not really talked about is, they actually tried to, cut down the way these bandits actually, do their activities by saying nobody should come to the filling station to buy fuel. But then these bandits are always on motorcycles, right? Always on motorcycles, because it's easy to maneuver, through the bushes and everything. So should the motorcycles be banned? Should motorcycles be banned?
I think that would be one too many, and it will be very much telling on local people, because my own attitude to this kind of things is that, if an item, for example, the fact that armed robbers or other criminals use cars
doesn't mean cars should be banned as well.
Because if you ban cars, what of the other people?
But honestly, haven't we gotten to a point where, every vehicle needs a tracker? a database with trackers. And then if you lose your vehicle, yeah, exactly.
Exactly, because people needs to be, we need to, especially in the face of the problems we are facing, we need to up our games. And as you said, that's quite a nice suggestion. You understand that vehicles are registered and also have trackers, so that if anything happens, you can actually trace it to who could that be. But also, you know, one major problem is that in the past there had been such what they call containment measures. That is, these restrictions: no selling of fuel in jerry cans. Also, the ban on markets where it is suspected that stolen cattle are sold. The cut in telecommunication, but it didn't achieve maybe as much success as it was expected. And then at the end, the government had to like reopen all of these things. And so for me, such restrictions may not really work as much as maybe the security agencies going after these people, as the Kaduna State Governor keep advocating that these people are known, their locations are known. It is the duty of the security agencies to go after them. But I understand that the security agencies, they will always tell you that, they are doing the best they can, that they have limitations and all that.
Okay. All right. So more stories. There's a pictorial there, you know, of queues in the Federal Capital Territory, and with the title saying fuel queues resurface as retail stations shut in Abuja, Kano, and Lagos. Why are there queues? Why? Because last week I actually sensed it. A lot of people actually sensed that you know, there would be fuel scarcity.
Yeah, you know, the queues have been like on sometimes for like I mean, for something like a week or two, and I mean, not queues, the scarcity, which is now built up into the queues. People started witnessing over the weekend in Abuja and other cities, and it's really a sad thing because people are just trying to recover from their last one. You know, last one was very grueling.
Exactly.
You know, all of us were literally sometimes sleeping in the
filling stations. It was a bad one.
You know, as we are recovering now, we are relapsing into another one. But I saw a statement from the NNPC saying that it was because of this break that they have not been loading at depots, that it will ease off because they have stock. We hope so, because
should that even should that be an excuse?
That's it. Because this is essential service, honestly.
Exactly.
There
shouldn't be an excuse.
Public holidays should not affect
essential
services. You can go to the hospitals
and say it's public holiday, we don't work, exactly.
We don't observe public holidays in newsrooms. So honestly, I think the authorities concerned should know that because this is something that is essential, people keep using it 24 hours, whether there is public holiday or not. Except if there is curfew, you know, that is maybe when maybe you would expect less use of vehicle. So there shouldn't be a reason why there will be any disruption in the
because for now,
chain.
right now, how long will it take for, you know, the fuels actually get back?
That's the problem, you know. One thing,
and then before you know it, you know, transportation fare increases and it stays that way. It doesn't come down.
That's true. Not
because right now, people are actually complaining as it is. You know, that everything increased during the fuel scarcity, but you know, it's not coming down. It's just there.
That's true. Not only transportation fares,
yeah, everything.
Said, you know, food items, almost everything. Once there is fuel wahala, everything will just go up, and then it will, you know, hardly come down.
Okay. All right. So let's take more stories from the front page of Daily Trust. We have on the footnotes there, defection, Yari, Marafa in tight corners, El-Rufai, Fayemi, SGF weighed in. Details on page 14. 2023, Igbo aspirants eyeing VP slot, not presidency, says Masop leader.
But that's really ridiculous. When I saw that just now, I said, so... I mean, like, this is coming from a notable, you know, Igbo leader, and then he is saying that with all the agitations, he's saying that the Igbo politicians are not serious, that they are
clamoring
actually,
for vice
looking
presidentship.
to negotiate for vice president slot instead of running for the presidency. That's for me quite interesting. You know, though the man himself had also come out to endorse the conquisted governor Yahya Bello for president.
Yeah.
So it's also surprising that he himself, who is an Igbo leader, who was in the forefront
Is
for
endorsing
the
someone from
sovereignty of the Igbo people, is now coming out to endorse another
someone from another state. All right, now moving on. Pastor arraigned for asking 300,000 naira fee to enter heaven. Details on page 12. At the top of the page, you have Ganduje endorses deputy governor, picks senatorial ticket. Now, it goes to say, right, that, you know, after being a governor, the next bet is being a senator. The retirement, exactly. It's actually been an issue, a controversial issue, you know, of recent. So now that he has picked senatorial ticket.
Yeah, it's like that. And as you said, in many states, that's what they do. I mean, the natural succession, the natural thing, almost natural. I wouldn't say natural because it's not.
It's like how you move from one level to another.
Just take it to the Senate. And for me, the concern is that it's not only moving to the Senate, but what do they do when they go there? Usually, you find out that most of the former governors who are in the Senate, with all respect to them, I would say a lot of them are bench warmers. You know, you see them, maybe they feel too big to get involved, and maybe, you know, they appear like what is this called? Like peacocks that have lost their feathers, so they just become subdued. And then
but isn't that
withdrawn.
like a demotion? You know, you go from being the governor of a state to a senator.
Yeah, that is why, you know, because they are used to all this fanfare of being governor, retinue of aides and convoys, and then you are in the Senate, maybe you are entitled to only 4 or 5 aides, and then because you don't have contracts to give, nobody comes to you that much, and then so that really humbled them, and a lot of them only, you will even forget that they're in the Senate.
If you ask me, I feel there should actually be a retirement age for our politicians.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
and one final story on the front page, page 22, says, after intense pressure, airlines rescind planned shutdown. But we'll take, you know, we'll actually be talking about this later.
Yeah.
So these are some of the stories.
I think with that, Musena, let's look at the Punch newspaper. The big headline in the Punch says Emefiele heads for court as anger spreads over presidential ambition. Hires Ezokome to seek constitutional interpretation amid rising criticism. APC chair confirms CBN governor's membership, says he registered in February 2021. Emefiele's action could compromise bank's integrity, says ex-director and senior advocates of Nigeria. This is one very hot issue over the last week.
It's actually quite confusing, right? You know, word came out that you were trying to, contest for presidency, and then you say no, that, you know, you've not taken up the challenge, and now we're finding out that you've actually registered since February 21st.
2021. And I think that in itself, where I'm not a lawyer, but that in itself is some breach. You know, you can't be a civilian governor and be a member of a political party, because those are very sensitive national assignments. And registered over a year ago, which means that this is an ambition that he has nursed for long. And as we were saying, he took to Twitter yesterday, claiming that he had not picked the forms, and that even if he's decided to contest, he will not pick. He will not go with the forms, bought for him. He will actually purchase his own forms and all that, which means that he is still considering the thing. But,
they're actually saying that farmers bought the forms for him, and I'm like, farmers that are actually suffering at, in this time, at this moment, where would they have gotten the money exactly?
Money, they said, who are beneficiaries of his uncle borrowers program. But even at that, it doesn't make sense. And this whole game of, for me, it has gotten to a very ridiculous level, where almost every aspirant in the country now is claiming that
a group bought the form for
his
him.
forms are bought by some group or by associates. Because
Just to avoid interrogations.
This is like a poser. Do Nigerians actually believe in politicians that much that they will be purchasing forms for them?
Exactly. All right, now, even Ezekwesili alleges that, the governor actually handed control to President Buhari 7 years ago, control of the CBN.
No, of course. There have been a lot of criticism about the CBN's monetary policies and even other things because, like, for example, as maybe she was alluding to when you say control to the president, like the CBN is not expected to be borrowing money anyhow to the CBN, to the government. But we have a situation whereby the government keep being funded by CBN, and a lot of economists have spoken about this, including the chairman of the president's Economic Council, Economic Advisory Committee, Dr. Doyin Salami, at a point raised concerns as to why the CBN should be funding the government to that extent, because that's not it. The CBN is supposed to be banker for the government, but not a lender. It can lend to a reasonable extent. I think it is whether 15%
so
of the government's previous year's income. But now we have had it worse than ever. And perhaps it could be linked to this ambition which is now coming out. But so as the story is saying, people are raising concerns about the legality of this, and as you see in the front page of the Punch, is saying that an ex-director and senior advocates are saying it can compromise
the bank's
integrity. So just like in the Daily Trust, Punch also splashes pictures of fuel queues announcing that the doomsdays are here again. And it says fuel queues resurface in Abuja, neighboring states. And we have the pictorials indicating that the queues are back. Just below that, we have a story saying Bajabi Amila would get chieftaincy title despite Alafin's death. Oyemeshi. Lagos sacks abandoned vehicles panel, alleges extortion. That's a story on page 6. Just beside that, Imo Governor mourns Inzerebe. Imo Governor mourns as Inzerebe dies at 83. Prince Asu Inzerebe is a very controversial politician who, age subdued over time because he had lived to 83, and I think
that's
maybe
quite a long time.
But he is best remembered for his role during the transition to civilian rule in early 90s, with his formation of the Association for Better Nigeria, ABN, which led to the cancellation of the June 12 presidential election because he took the government to court. There's a lot of controversies and all that. So that's an end of an era. On the top line of the Punch, Jet A1, that is aviation fuel, airlines suspend flight shutdown, reps to meet operators. This is a story on page 30, and as you were saying,
we'll discuss this in depth.
Yes, it's also featured in the front page of
Daily Trust newspaper.
And what could have been the case now had it been the strike continue?
We'll ask that later.
Okay,
we'll talk about that later. Yeah,
because I can see that it would have really have a devastating impact, because that's about the only means of transport right now in Nigeria. I mean, the safest that a lot of people, follow. On page 46, bandits mustn't have upper hand in Northwest again, says Buhari. Nigeria loses 1.22 trillion to deficits in oil production, according to reports. ASU FG disagree over planned meeting. The ASU warning strike, which was extended for 4 weeks, is ending today, and
definite strike might continue, according to reports. This disagreement, between ASU and federal government might cost a lot, because the students have lost so much time already.
It's true. Every time there is this problem, the students, it's just like the saying that when two elephants clash, it is the grass
Ground that
suffers.
suffers.
So the students bear the huge cost, and I don't know, because it's really sad that as a country we are not able to resolve a problem that has lingered for at least 20 years. You know, I mean, even the 2009 agreement that as we're still talking about, that's 2009, over 10 years ago, like 13 years, and still nothing has happened. So I just hope that the government, you know, tries to do something, at least to get one problem take out, you know, solved, so that at least, you know, you're going to come back to this problem again.
So, but then if the government doesn't do anything, like if there's no agreement, then the students keep suffering, because these lecturers are supposed to care more about the educational sector. Do you get? It's not like, let's ask, are they being paid salaries?
Yes, you know, that's another problem, because like some people are raising concern that why should the lecturers be paid when they are on strike, and why even in the first place that strike will always be the way to press home their demands.
It's been like that for a really
of
long
course,
time.
from time immemorial, so to say. Strike is synonymous with ASU, because almost every now and then they go on strike, and then even if the government threaten or implement the no work, no pay thing, at the end, after the resolution, they will still come and give them arrears of their salaries. And, you know, actually, some people are of the view that you are subsidizing or encouraging this kind of behavior. In as much as, yes, everybody is agreed that the government is not really serious with funding education or with even implementing the ASU promises. But ASU always going on strike. You know,
Now, even when ASU wasn't on strike, you know, there's a lot of complaints about, you know, the system, the education sector, and, you know, the, how do I call it, the type of lecturers and teachers, you know, who actually teach in these universities. So should a competency test, you know, just like they did in Kaduna, should it be, should it be applied to these lecturers as well?
No, actually,
Because most of them, you know, you went to, you know, the university, so you understand how it is. Some just come in, give you, you know, a page of a book to go and read yourself without any explanation.
I understand. You know, in Nigeria, one thing that I always say is that we like talking about others. It's just like the parable of pointing accusing fingers, in which three other fingers are pointing at you. So a lot of people, you know, keep pointing fingers at others, but they don't look at themselves.
The other fingers pointing at them.
Because, as you said, if you go to these universities, you see actually a lot of them, some of them use notes from their student days and teach students in this age. Like, for example, somebody was using a note from 1980s, you know, to teach in late 2000s.
You can imagine when the world has evolved way past that.
Exactly. So that productivity is not there, and a lot of them also, that greed bug that is in a lot of us is also in them, that you see.
No, they have God complexes.
A lecturer going around 4-5 universities as visiting lecturer. You know, that is one of their grounds with this IPPS, because it cuts off. Because, you know, and then the students, again, are the losers. Because I have seen that, you know, firsthand. Like, you have a lecturer coming only like 3 or 4 times in a semester, because he's moving from one university to another every week, and then he has gotten himself so busy that he has no time for anybody. But he's going everywhere.
That's crazy.
That's really ironic. Let's have a look at more stories on the front page of Punch quickly. On page 6, there's a story that says, "We will soon reveal Imo killings sponsors," says Uzodimma. That is the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodimma, threatening to reveal sponsors of killers in the state. Another story there, graduates stranded as Kwara Poly, NYSC mobilized impostor for service.
To what end?
Yeah, that's it.
To what end?
That would be an interesting story, like because so well, you know, some people, and also just like we discussed with this drug story, because of desperation, people do so many things. like fake coppers just with allowance
Yeah,
and they will be
exactly.
drawing from
Still part
government
of the
and all that.
extortion.
Nigeria can't continue this way, says Saraki. This is very, the game is on now. Politicians are moving around from one state to another, wooing delegates ahead of the convention of the two major parties, the APC and the PDP. And it is interesting how, almost all of them are saying the same thing.
All right, let's move on to more newspapers, which is The Nation, a newspaper next. And we have the lead story here that says APC slams 9 conditions on presidential aspirants, and a writer that says contenders barred from taking party to court. Now, some of the conditions are acceptance of outcome and support for winners, not engage in thuggery, anti-party activities, must not create parallel Congress at any level, must sign letter of voluntary withdrawal, preserve, defend APC and 1999 Constitution, abide by Electoral Act guidelines, and place APC above selfish interest. Now, we're not even going to talk about, abiding by the Electoral Act guidelines yet, in as much as we're going to talk about the number of, contenders or aspirants coming out in the APC alone.
Yeah, it's quite shocking. And as someone was saying yesterday, it has become a charade. It has become something like
someone said it's not
joke.
Baba Ijebu, where you get to,
And you wonder, honestly, I know that a lot of, I won't call it noise, but a lot of concerns have been raised around the cost of the nomination forms in the first place.
Exactly.
And especially for a government or a party that is claiming or pledging to sanitize the country of graft and other misbehaviors.
And for a government that is claiming that Nigeria is broke.
That is it, exactly. And you have people doling out 100 million naira, like say, someone,
like over 20-something contenders now.
Exactly, yeah, over 20. And the ruling party is raking in, as at the last count, close to 4 billion naira, which is quite huge, and it's also because initially the national chairman claimed that they pegged the money that high so that they will face out on serious contenders.
But
look at what.
But won't that affect them, during the elections? Because Nigerians are beginning to say, so, there are lots of people in government who actually have such amount of money and we've been suffering and all that. Won't that affect their chances?
Yeah, well, I won't say that, but I know that it will definitely open the eyes, as you say in the street. It will shine the eyes of Nigerians because, as you are saying, if you can dole out this amount of money to just purchase the nomination forms, it will mean that when the election comes, you have to also extend money to win the election, which is quite bad. It's like, honestly, something of a drawback to the integrity of our electoral system, because I remember that even the President Muhammadu Buhari, during his speech at the APC convention, was saying that the party ticket should not go to the highest bidder. So, but then ironically, the highest bidders are the ones picking the forms, because not everyone can bring out 100 million naira just to buy a nomination form of a political party.
Okay. All right, let's move on to more stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper. At the top there we have inflation to hit 7-month high at 16.2%. Interest rates to go up. Now, the previous paper, it talks about how Nigeria, the naira slumps to 595 naira per dollar, and forex shortage also persists. All right, let's move on. We have aviation workers begin strike, warning strike, or they called off, the strike, yes. And
no, the aviation workers are on strike.
Okay, on a strike. The 2-day warning strike. The
airlines are the ones that are shelving their...
Okay, understandable. All right, now Senator Nzeribe dies at 83. We also have Asumall strike extension protest in cities. VC's wives shift parlay. We also have Buhari in Cote d'Ivoire for COP15. 2 expectant moms held for drugs. And if you come to the bottom of the page, there's a story on petrol scarcity back in the FCT, and oil marketers seek payment of 100 billion naira debts. Wow. All right. We also have federal government investors draw down 850 billion naira on claimed dividend funds. And on the footnotes there, Supreme Court verdict on 17 oil wells not final, says Imo State government. They've refused to, accept defeat. Boy, it's all good. With that, we'll move on to more papers on our list.
Okay, the next paper is leadership newspapers. And the big story on the front page of leadership says, ahead of party primaries, CSOs kick against aspirants' use of state resources for campaign. Northern groups decry hijack of political space by some actors. We don't want government of continuity, says ACF. Beware of aspirants with empty promises, Feniperi tells Nigerians. Amechi Saraki, Peter Obi intensify campaign for party tickets. By the side, ASU ends one strike to decide next line of action. It is a story on page 4 of today's leadership newspapers. Just below the picture of the Minister of Labor and Employment is another story still on the aviation sector, saying aviation fuel 1 hour flight may hit 120,000 naira. That's quite shocking, and I don't know, another doom's prediction. A story on page 41. Then on page 15, there is a story saying illegal refinery, 10 feared dead in Abuja explosion. That's one explosion too many, because Nigeria has not finished mourning the over 100 people killed in similar explosion in Imo, now another one in Abuja. So these are basically the stories on the front page of leadership newspapers today.
To the next paper, which is National Economy, and we have a lead story that says a mass exodus of Nigerians reveals deep economic crisis, says experts. We also have at the bottom of the page, FG floats 200 billion naira vehicle financing scheme. Lumelu seeks U.S. better relationship with Africa. Anxiety as fuel scarcity resurfaces in Abuja. At the top of the page there you have Jet A1. Unit cost per seat to hit 120,000 naira as AON suspends planned operations shutdown. And then we also have Leader to Watch, seasoned expert on NGX. And these are some of the stories on the front page of the Nigerian economy. And I think with that, we wrap up the newspaper review at this hour. When we come back in the next hour, we'll have a more detailed, review and with our reviewer right here in the studio. But for now, let's take a look at my daily hustle and see how Nigerians are actually faring in the economy. Stick around.
When a situation where you find that look at the
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
My name is Ada Emmanuel. I'm from Benue State. I actually sell roasted yam for a living. Well, I didn't actually start it. My mother started it probably 10 years ago, if I'm to say correctly. So it's not until 2 years ago since I started helping her. So ever since, it's been me and her. Well, because she's actually old and the business actually is not helping her medically. She has a series of sicknesses that were caused by too much fire, I guess. So that should be it. What made me join her in the business was that she has been having medical problems due to too much heat always, and she wakes up very, very early. So it's pretty much bad for a woman of her age. So I decided to join her, and ever since it's just been me and her. The way I usually help her is that instead of her waking up early, I usually come here early in the morning, arrange the place. She probably joins me later. She sells it. Most times, all the message, because she can't actually walk well, so most of the messages, I'm the one going it. So she just has to sit in one place. That would be easy for her, for me though. Ever since I joined her in the business, it's pretty much, I wake up most times 5:30 in the morning. So after I wake up, I brush my teeth, take my bath, and in less than 30 minutes I get here. Because where I live, there's usually traffic, so I have to get up very early in order to meet up with my time here. So I usually get here 6 o'clock, 6:30. First thing I do is I set up the fire, put the beans on the fire. Then I rush to the market, get plantain. Most times I even get plantain the day before that to avoid wasting my time. So I get the plantain. Pretty much I put it on the fire. The same thing with yam. Buy the yam and put it on the fire. So the next thing I do, I start cutting the onions to make the sauce, so that before somebody will come and ask for the yam, the sauce is already ready. So when I'm done with that, next thing I do is get another beans, because we usually cook twice in a day. So I go to the market. By that time my mom will be here. She will take care of the serving. I'll just be at the market. I'll get beans and the rest for the next day. So that's pretty much how I do it almost every day. The business is actually helping. It's actually our only source of livelihood. My sister is actually in school. It was with this business that she put her in school, in university. So my secondary school was from this business. And I'm going to YYEC now. It's also from this business. So the business is actually almost everything to us. That's why I don't want it to go to waste. Before I left school, what I usually do, I come in the morning as early as 6. I'll help her and arrange the place. So when I've done all that, at least 7:25, 7:20, I'm done. Then I hurry to school, because my school is not actually far from here. So in less than 10 minutes, I'm back in school. When I'm done from school, 2 o'clock, I'm back here. Help till the night. I usually wash my uniform and dry it out here. So when I get home, all I do is just iron it, prepare for the next day. That's pretty much everything. I usually do my assignment most times 12 in the midnight, 10 in the midnight. I just do it late at night. That's the only time I can say I have chance for myself. And most times I might be very tired, I might just ignore it. But I make sure I do it though, because it's actually important to me. I'm a science student, so I can actually joke on my assignments. So most of the time, when you actually tell them, when it comes to plantain, the price is actually high sometimes. So when you tell them that, okay, this plantain is 300, they'll be like, for only plantain. So you actually make it look like a joke. You just be like, nah, 300 now, you know, 50. Most of them now, for the fact that you said that, it's not like they don't have the money, but because you said that, they'll just give it to you and buy it. Most of them, they will actually want to leave, but with the way you actually address them, they'll be like, okay, fine, just give it to me. Because most times, before, you will be able to get beans 100 naira, but when the price increased to 150, many were complaining, but with the way we were talking to them, they just got used to it and they started buying it at that price. About my education, it's actually a blow spot for me, though, because I don't actually think I can get the money I need for my education from this business. But I'm hoping for a turnaround very soon. I actually want to study civil engineering. So probably next year or upper year, I should be working on that. But for now, I'll have to wait for my sister to graduate. She's probably graduating next year, early next year. So by then, I'll be ready to work for myself. As a kid, I actually loved anything that has to do with electronics, computer. Most times I was just open our TV for no reason and I'll be watching inside, checking. So I actually grew, should I say, affection for it. I would actually want to like develop the country and all those kind of things. So being a civil engineer is the only way I think I can help the country from my own aspect of life. That's pretty much why I chose it. Actually, because I feel like the business is not really paying off, and with time we'll get tired of it, we'll have to leave it. So I'm actually thinking of something, probably in January of next year, I'll open a fruit juice spot. I'll start selling fruit juice. It's actually better because my sister was doing it before she went to school, so I actually want to take over from her. So the price of the fruit juice, the rate of the business is actually better than this, by far better than this. At least with that, I know I won't stay hungry anymore. The biggest challenge, I guess, was my education. It's always been my education. Like, education in my family is actually very hard because we don't come from somewhere that there's always money. Most of the time, funniest part is that whenever I need to change institution, like from JS1, from primary 6 to JS1, my mom had to borrow money. She later paid up before I finished JS3. From JS3 to SS1, she still had to borrow money. And I'm very sure now that if I want to go to a higher institution, I should still borrow money. So it's not actually something I admire, it's not good. So I'm pretty much trying to change everything. There are most people that will come here in the evening like this and they start asking for their money. Most times I feel like crying because I don't like it even small. They won't believe, they'll be like, you have only 2 children, how can you be suffering? We that have 6, we are still managing and shit like that, but it's not actually easy. Yeah, it's just me and my sister, but it's not as easy as it seems. There's money in the business, but it depends on where you're selling it. Because for this place, there are actually about 5 people selling just this. Yeah, so it's actually a competition thing for them. Because if you sell at the higher price, this person sells at the lower price, this person will be the one selling, you won't say anything. So they actually drag the price. Most times they'll reduce the price for no reason. That's the main thing. But there was somewhere in Chai or something like that that my auntie usually sells. Like, her profit is way better than this, and they actually sell more than her. They can sell 3 bunch here, but that auntie will sell probably 2 and make more money than them here. So it actually depends on where you're selling. That was the main reason why we've been owing people up and down. Like, since when the price got up, the money has actually been very hard. Normally before, by 3 years ago, you could get 1 bunch of plantain 1.5, but now 3,000 and above. Like, it's way too high. The price is too much. Surviving it is actually one of the toughest things that I've ever faced. Most times we come to the market, we don't even have transport to go back home. But we just do it so that they won't say you are idle. And we're pretty much sure that things will change very soon.
Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome. Yes, it is daybreak on Trust Television right here in the Federal Capital Territory. I'm Dashin Husseina Usman. Thanks for joining us.
A beautiful morning to our viewers. This is Abdulaziz Thanks for being with us.
Okay, so I didn't ask this in the beginning, but welcome back. It's good to have you back. You've been away for a while.
That's it. I thought you didn't miss me, but I also wanted
Can you
to.
imagine?
I'm happy to reunite with our viewers. It's been like 3 weeks away, and it feels like
Forever.
I'm excited coming back. But of course,
we're excited to have you back as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. All right, so let's move on to the headlines. ASU warning strike ends today. Union may begin indefinite strike.
Airline operators bow to pressure, cancel nationwide shutdown.
Buhari leaves Abuja for Abuja for UN conference.
As the second round of the 8-week warning strike embarked upon by members of the Academic Staff Union of the universities, ASU, ends today, Monday, there are indications the union may proceed on an indefinite strike action. Reports say the national leadership of the union will make public its decision today. It was gathered that the national executive of the union had earlier given the go-ahead to the national leadership to call out members on indefinite strike if nothing tangible was achieved during the 8 weeks of their warning strike.
Moving on, the Airline Operators of Nigeria has suspended the decision to cripple the aviation sector today. President of the AON, Alhaji Abdulmanaf Yunusa Sarina, who announced this on Sunday, said the decision was taken after deliberations with the federal government. The development comes after no fewer than 6 airlines backed out of the planned shutdown. The airlines which pulled out of the earlier joint decision to suspend operations over skyrocketing Jet A1 include Ibom Air, Dana, Arik, Aero, Overland, and Green Africa Airways. Out of the 6, only Green Africa is not a member of the AON.
President Muhammadu Buhari on Sunday left Abuja for Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, to attend a United Nations organized conference. The conference will pay a priority attention to the future of the land regarding desertification, drought, degradation, rights, restoration, and implications for national and world economies. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, explained that the convention aims to take action to ensure that land continues to benefit present and future generations. President Buhari is expected to participate in a summit of heads of state and governments from 9th and 10th of May and join world leaders for the 15th session of the Conference of State Parties, COP15, of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. With that, we come to the end of the news highlights. We take more reports after the break.
Governor of Nigeria Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, recently thanked some individuals and farmers for purchasing the 100 million naira nomination and expression of interest forms of the APC for him to facilitate his much-touted presidential contest. It is against this backdrop that Trust TV sought clarification from the Corporate Affairs Commission about possible breaches in this kind of scenario. Shafi'u Suleiman has more.
Nigeria's Central Bank Godwin Emefiele recently thanked some individuals and farmers for purchasing the 100 million naira nomination and expression of interest forms of the APC for him to facilitate his much-touted presidential contest. It is against this background that Trust TV sought clarification from the Corporate Affairs Commission about the possible breaches in this kind of scenario.
We intend to issue a public statement in due course on that, reminding companies of the provisions of CAMA that clearly prohibits them from donating to a political party or engaging in political activities.
He also speaks on the impact of certain reforms by the Buhari government aimed at facilitating ease of doing business and factors undermining the efforts.
When you have double-digit interest, it's difficult to operate a business because how many people have the capital to start a business? A lot of people rely on loans. You have two sources of funding your business. It's either the equity contribution or loan. In most cases, equity contribution is hardly sufficient.
The CAC boss also tasked beneficiaries of the 250,000 free new businesses registered following the directive of the president to remain afloat to avoid drastic action.
People should not use these companies or business names as vehicles to just collect the money and close shop. They should actually engage in these businesses. And I believe the various agencies and authorities responsible for giving these interventions have institutionalized measures for continuous monitoring of these entities.
Nigeria has been receiving international accolades for doing well in the Ease of Doing Business Index. But there are fears that certain factors are slowing down the gains. These factors include epileptic power supply, double digits interest rate, and escalating insecurity. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the Peace Ambassadors Center for Humanitarian Aid and Empowerment has signed a memorandum of understanding with Northeast Connect to build the capacities of 7 NGOs and CBOs in Borno State. The capacity building project will help strengthen efficient and effective civil society organizations in the state. The report.
This 7-month project aims to enhance knowledge base and develop effective civil society organizations as first respondents in building resilience among communities vulnerable to violent extremist infiltration and conflict. 7 civil organizations and community-based organizations will be trained on proposal development, program implementation, resource mobilization, project management, monitoring, and evaluation.
Organization, we want to mentor small organizations so that they can be able to go and serve their communities, because the international organizations that are here will one day go, and once they will go with their knowledge, with their expertise. So we want to mentor people so that they can continue serving their communities, so it can be a voice to the voiceless. It's when you build the capacity of these local community organizations, they can be able to serve their community better, as they can represent the interests of their community rather than allowing somebody from outside to come and speak on their behalf.
The platform will also be an avenue to identify and improve the technical and operational capacity of allies of civil society organizations and community-based organizations in Borno State. Participants said they are ready to give their best and enhance their knowledge for effective service delivery.
Technically, I have a lot of places to improve myself, and just from the introduction we had, I learned that someone cannot know everything. Despite your knowledge and all, the gaps that are opened, like impartiality, some people are depressed, trauma and all that. I believe after this project, these gaps will be closed and we'll have a lot of success stories.
For you to be effective in terms of the implementation of the project, you have to be transparent, you have to be open, you have to be committed, and you have to have passion for that particular thing. Then the rest is the story.
The participants will be engaged in one-on-one training and organizational capacity building.
Well, it's a good thing to know that a lot of positivity and positive projects, are being invested in Borno State. Well, with that, we'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, it'll be time for the newspaper review. Stick around.
But in a situation where you find that a look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome welcome back. Right now, it's time for the newspaper review and more analysis on the front pages of newspapers from across Nigeria. And we have Chairperson Editorial Board Blueprint newspaper, Hajia Zainab Okino, joining us now for a detailed review. Good morning, ma'am. Welcome to Daybreak once again.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, now let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper and the lead story, on the front page, talking about Buhari, warning bandits, warning military as bandits kills cause in Zamfara state. What's your take on this particular story? Because
there's really nothing special about it. Same old story. This is what we have heard over and over again. We're giving marching orders to the military. Well, maybe that will help to redouble their efforts. So, but there's really nothing special in the news.
So you're saying his words don't mean anything, or his orders?
No, I wouldn't say so for the president of a country of 200 million people. No, because his words mean a lot. But I'm saying that this has been rehearsed over and over and over. And we only hope that the military will do the needful.
Yeah, that's interesting. But one issue is that some people have raised concern that these orders keep coming and almost nothing happens with the order, in almost all circumstances until another attack comes. And then there are a fresh round of orders. How else should the president be handling this situation?
I think we went through all this before. I mean, everybody has been talking about it. There's a problem with the foundation. There's a problem with the foundation in the sense that the military themselves are handicapped to some extent. We do not have enough men recruited into the army. And the military is doing what it is not even supposed to do, coming to the civil space to defend. Coming to the civil space to quell riots or do whatever, do so many things that ordinarily the police should be equipped enough to do. So they are handicapped in a way, but I do not know what the president or what the presidency as a whole, how much they are doing to arrest the situation. But I will not say that they are not trying, because possibly if nobody takes charge, if nobody is doing anything about the whole mess, this violence everywhere, who will not be able to even sleep at all. So on that basis, I would say that maybe they are making efforts, but the efforts are not good enough. And then the military, as I said, is coming to the civil space and doing so much that ordinarily other security agencies should do. So maybe on that basis, you can. Then there's also fatigue. It looks to me like they are fatigued.
So should that call for maybe change of strategy?
Have we not said this over and over again? I mean, if you read Nigerian history like 4 or 5 years ago, some of these captions you are seeing now, if you look through papers of 5, 6 years ago, even 8 years ago, you'll see the same caption. So the problems have always been there. Change strategies, well, you know how long it took the president to change the former service skills. So it will take another maybe 2 years of agitation by the civil society, media, concerned Nigerians for him to change strategies again. As a matter of fact, the NSA has been there from the beginning up to this moment. So what do you say about that? I mean, this is the first regime I will see in this country that somebody, since 1999 anyway, somebody will be in a particular position for almost 8 years now. I don't think it has ever happened in this country. So it's as if people are forgotten when they are appointed, they are forgotten there, and nobody assesses them, and nobody looks at their schedules. I mean, if you are given a position, you are given also schedules. So people should be able to evaluate you, or whoever gives you the job should be able to evaluate your performance and say, okay, you have done well, you can continue, or we think you should change strategies. And change is the most interesting thing in life. If you don't change people from one position to the other, you will not know how effective an organization can be. So I welcome change anytime. But with this government, I think change, which ideally was their mantra originally, change is difficult to come by.
All right, so now with the marching order of the president actually gave recently saying that, kidnapped victims should be rescued. Do you think, it can actually happen and it's feasible? Rescued unhurt?
It's not going to be easy. Personally, I don't think it will be easy. I won't say that the government is not doing anything about it. It may not be tangible, it may not be conspicuous, and you will not expect them to tell you their strategies, but we need to worry about the tragedy occurring there. I mean, I've heard about an 80-year-old woman. A woman has had a child there.
Yeah, exactly.
A family of 6 is there, and a host of others that shouldn't be outside the comfort of their homes. They're all there. So there has to be that pressure on the government to do something about it, because each time I'm even a bit hungry, I'm a bit uncomfortable in my home, their thoughts come to me that, and during this fasting period when we were fasting, I was like, so there are people who cannot even think of fasting, or they don't even have a meal to eat. They are not sure of a meal, because I know what bandits give their captives. They buy bread, they give you gari, once in a while. So I imagine that they are already emancipated, and then the children involved. So it's a whole lot. So calling on the government to act, I mean, we do not even have to call on the government to act. They have said something about, not that they do not know where they are, where the captives are, but if they have to use force to bring them out, the captives will be affected, which is true. But I think they need to work harder. They need to work harder, because we're talking about almost 100 people. Let it not be the lot of these people, just like that of Chibok girls, that we still have, we still have over 100 unaccounted for. So let this one not pass that way. And unfortunately, the people who should act are more concerned about the next election. And almost all those who have a lot of problems to solve, who have a lot of challenges in either their ministry or the agency, they all now want to become president. So for them, the priority is the next election. For us as individuals, and we must continue to emphasize this, please bring back these people. They are suffering.
Honestly.
They're suffering.
Yeah, that's quite sad. And as you said, we hope that they are released, or they are rescued, brought out, and reunited with their family as soon as possible. With that, we take a look at another story on the front page of Daily Trust, which, as we shall see later, is also in other papers: the return of the fuel queues. The fuel queues resurface as retail stations shut down in Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, and Lagos. Why is this becoming perennial?
I wouldn't know, but I can just hazard some guesses. It still, again, goes back to the foundation. What happened the last time when the fuel queues stopped was maybe because of the outcry and the government intervened. So I do not even understand. I almost couldn't make it to this place, because yesterday I sent my son to buy fuel for me, and he came back without, and he said, maybe I can just manage this. So after this program now, I'll go and maybe I'll send my driver to go and queue up and all that. So I have not read much about it, because it just started. I don't know what the excuse that NNPC will give this time around for not supplying enough. But there are always excuses. And some of these terminals shut down. I don't know what the explanation will be. Maybe maintenance, routine maintenance. Maybe there's no gas.
But how is this, in the midst of all the hardship, inflation is still going up, and so many other things? How is this going to affect lives of ordinary Nigerians?
can only worsen it. It's already bad enough. It can only worsen it. And as a man, you know what you used to give your wife to go to the market, to buy household things, and what you give her now. So the gap is so wide. Even for those that we think have, they are also complaining. So our money is not circulating. I think it's in the hands of a few people. Maybe 1%. I think I read somewhere where somebody says our money circulates just within 1% of the population. So that's so sad. So the situation is going to get more and more serious because common, well, it's not common, meat, a kilogram of beef now is 2,700.
Wow.
2,700. An average family will finish that in 2 days.
Or less. Depends on, you know, how many meals they have in a day.
If they have 3 meals, and I doubt if anybody is still having 3 meals anyway.
Doubt that.
So it's going to really worsen an already bad situation. And to think that the naira is not even improving, that's another problem. The war in Ukraine, some of those grains and stuff that we used to, they used to import. So all of them, plus, you know, we have not gotten over the pandemic. So they have all compounded a very bad situation that we have found ourselves. But I know it's not only in Nigeria. The only problem is that our own country, our own leaders don't seem to be doing anything about it. Whereas in other countries, you see their leaders sweating to come up with solutions and even palliatives for the citizens. But here,
cutting down on their own luxuries.
Yes, and they cut down on their own luxury. Here, we have how many presidential aspirants now? I think 27 in APC and 17 in PDP. And most of them are using presidential jets, using private jets.
Moving
around from one place to the other. And not just that, they are dropping money for politicians that are going to vote for them. So how do you reconcile that kind of lifestyle with the lifestyle of the average Nigerian who cannot eat 3 times a day? People are hungry. I mean, genuinely, people ask for help. Not because, it's as if they lose their dignity. And you know what it means to ask for help. When each time you ask for help, you lose your dignity. Yeah. But if you have to lose your dignity, you have to, so that you have something to eat. It's that important.
You know, talking about airlines, you know, there was supposed to be like a planned shutdown, but now they've rescinded. What would have happened if these airlines had shut down operations?
I wish it had even shut down. You know why? Because who patronized them? Is it not the elites? Elites patronize. I mean, the people in our rural areas don't care whether airlines are where they are in operation or not. So, but those that it will affect, the shutdown would have affected, have quickly moved in.
Found a solution.
To get a solution, even if it is a temporary solution. And today, at least today, we are relieved a bit that has happened. But this is how we want them to take action on all other issues, not just issues that affect them, because that's our tragedy. When something affects the elites, the leadership or the decision makers, we take actions almost immediately. But when it affects the generality of the people, the millions of people who have no access to government, that lethargy on the part of our leadership.
Really sad.
Sad. Let's quickly move to the next paper, and the next is The Nation newspaper, where the major headline says APC slams 9 conditions on presidential aspirants. Contenders barred from taking party to court. And some of the conditions include acceptance of outcome and supporting winners of the primaries, not engage in thuggery, anti-party activities, must not create parallel congresses at any level, must sign letter of voluntary withdrawal, preserve, defend APC and 1999 Constitution, abide by Electoral Act guidelines, place APC above selfish interest. I know this is in continuation of the horse trading within the party for who picks the party's princely nomination ticket. What do you make of these conditions?
Yeah, it's a tall order. I agree with the fact that the party has to come up with some measures to contain the possible implosion that will happen after the primaries. But these measures are too draconian.
Yeah.
These measures are too draconian because it's no longer democratic. It's not, democracy is about free choice. It's no longer about that. So are we now going to force people to remain members of the APC even when they are aggrieved and are not happy? Remember what happened before the convention? They were able to manage that one successfully. I do not know whether members who joined freely will now have to contend with these measures that are almost impossible to adhere to. But because I'm not a politician, I wouldn't know how they will solve it, but it's too stringent, it's too serious, it's too draconian. It's almost impossible in a free society that we should be.
Yes, one of the interesting things, just to follow up on that, is the barring the aspirants or the aggrieved aspirants from going to court. Well, of course, I know you have somehow addressed this, but you know, these court issues is a lot of times affect democracy because there are instances where people say we have handed over the power of the people to choose their leaders to the courts. Don't you think that this, in this light, this could be positive development?
I agree that there are frivolous court injunctions in this country, especially when politicians are involved. There are so many of them. But it's not up to us as individuals. It's not even up to any political party to try to stop anybody from going to court. It's up to the judiciary, and they also have their own internal mechanism of checking some of these things. It's up to the judiciary to put themselves in check, to avoid some of this, what they call, I think, forum shopping also, yeah. When people move from one party to the other. But it has favored some government officials. Mm-hmm. I think Malami, it favored Malami. Yeah, exactly. Malami went to court to get an injunction about...
but he didn't go to court himself.
He didn't go, but we know where it came from. So let's not do this democracy such that it's only when it favors us that we like court judgments. When it doesn't favor us, we say no. The judiciary is excessively harsh on us also. If we are going to subject ourselves to legal interpretation, whenever there's any gray area, let's do that. I don't think there's anything wrong about it. But I think NJC may need to also oversight some of these judges who sometimes give frivolous judgments. Okay. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and that should not stop us from going to court. If we do not go to court, I mean, they have different functions. We have 3 arms of government: legislature, the judiciary. So the presidency will become so draconian, it will become so dictatorial that we wonder whether we are still running a democracy. We need the judiciary to come in from time to time.
Okay, let's go back to another story, still on the Nation newspaper. We talked about, airlines, rescinding the shutdown and everything. But, the aviation workers are beginning a 2-day warning strike. It's like, solving one problem and another one springs up.
Unfortunately, that's what Nigeria has become. If you are solving a soup problem, that's the Polytechnic. The ASU will come up. So, of course, they may also have their own grievances.
They're saying welfare. Their welfare is poor.
Welfare, their own is better. They are working, and they are talking about welfare. Millions of Nigerians are even looking for that opportunity, but that should not stop them from asking for what belongs to them or from from adhering to their contractual agreements. So, and they have every right to also want their welfare improved. So I don't know how they are going to solve their problems, but I pray and I wish that there is no political motive to some of these grievances that are coming out. In any case, it always happens during election year. So it's up to the people at the top to see how they can nip them in the bud before they escalate.
Well, one strike issue, talking of strike, is the ASU strike, which they just finished. They've been on strike for, I think, 6 weeks. Initially 2 weeks, then 4 other weeks of warning strike, and which ends today. And there are fears that they may extend the strike or go for indefinite one. Why is this ASU strike unresolved for all this long? Why do we continue having this strike?
It's so very easy to blame ASU for going on strike because sometimes everybody feels that ASU again. It's very easy to blame them. But the question is, you had an agreement, government had an agreement with them, I think is it 2013 or so?
2009.
2009. And to think that all those agreements have not been adhered to up to now is a problem. But I think ASU should also have a rethink. Because we are all in this together. Some don't have a very strong umbrella for demanding for what is theirs. But ASU has a very strong union. So, and every now and then they capitalize on it to go on strike. Maybe people need another narrative from them. But not that I'm blaming them, because we are all parents and we know we don't want our children to be at home. But then, if you compare the salaries of even a professor, and somebody made an analysis, how much this 100 million naira, how many years it will pay a professor in Nigeria. So many years. I mean, so there's actually money in Nigeria. Now we know that there's money. It's just that they don't allow it to spread.
Well, all of this is actually going on. The students are the ones at the receiving end. You have them, taking up, menial jobs, taking up skills, How do I put it? When they say a child grows faster than, his age, instead of them, being in school and studying, these are plans to actually make the country better, but they're taking menial jobs, working just to, fend for themselves.
Did I hear you say they take menial jobs? That is if they get the menial jobs. I have a lot of them. I have my nephews, my nieces. They are in my house as we speak now. They cannot even get those jobs. So even if it means now we have got to a stage where, okay, just get this degree, then do something else. And that's why you have a lot of young people now going into fashion business, going into lifestyle businesses like
or learning one
skill or the other, which is good, which is what our education should be tailored to us, not really getting certificate. But you know that they are now doing it out of necessity because I have graduates in my house that are up to 10 years. They've not got any job. Yes, I do. That's my younger brother. He did, like you said, menial jobs. He did 1 or 2 here and there. It didn't add up. So he wants to start Uber now. And a lot of these young people, they are the ones doing Uber. Thank God for that. So if only we can even get these menial jobs, Nigerians are ready. Nigerians are ready to do it. It's just that we can't. Most of them can't even get them.
Yeah, and I think that is because one issue that educationists oftentimes speak about is the disconnect between what we produce and the industry to consume them, and also the collapse of the private sector. And government is turned into, I don't know what is your talk, because it appears that government is now turned into the sole employer of labor because maybe there has not been supportive infrastructure to enable growth of the manufacturing industry. Is that something that you think adds to the problem?
You're absolutely right. There's nowhere in the world that government employs their teeming population. It does not happen anywhere. As a matter of fact, in some countries, they don't even want to work with government. At least I've had calls once when I was on this international, this U.S. international program, and each time, everywhere we went, where have you been to? So far, we went to Washington, and one particular person said, "Oh, those government people." Some of them don't want to work with government. Why will you work with government if there are other better opportunities in the private sector, or what you call private sector? But like you said, our own private sector has collapsed. The industries are closing shop, and people don't have any choice than to look onto government. And government, how many people can government employ? So the right thing to do is for government to ensure that the private sector works. All these industries, all the textile industries, when I went to Kaduna, late 80s, around 88, 89, there were so many textile industries, just like in Kano that you know very well. There's so many industries. Most of those industries, many of them have been converted to housing estates or residential areas.
Or warehouses.
Or warehouses.
For Chinese production.
So because most of them could not get available materials that they need to work, or it is too expensive such that they cannot make any gain. So if we do not encourage the private sector to grow, if we continue to rely on government, then our problem has just begun. I mean, we're just starting. It's going to get worse. I pray not, but that's the reality.
All right. Do you have more questions?
Well, I wanted to take a breather so that before we continue with the newspaper review.
Okay.
Dear residents of our beautiful capital city of Abuja, I know we all desire to have a world-class city with working infrastructure and clean streets. That is why the Federal Capital Territory Administration is investing a lot of resources and manpower to ensure prompt evacuation of refuse from all nooks and crannies of the city. Now, this can only be sustained if all residents play their part by promptly paying their waste collection bills. Encourage everyone around you to be patriotic and pay their bills. The task of keeping Abuja clean is for all of us. Remember, soup way sweet, na money kill out. This message is from the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
All right, welcome back. Still on newspaper review, and we're taking the Punch newspaper next. And talking about the lead story, I want Hajia to actually tell us her take on this particular story. You know, the CBN governor, Emefiele, heading for court as anger spreads over presidential ambition. You know, in the beginning, word came out that he's trying to contest, and then he said he hasn't taken the challenge. But we're seeing lots of branded vehicles. We're seeing people buying nomination forms for him, and then people also saying that his action could compromise the bank's integrity and he needs to be sacked or even resign as soon as possible. What's your take on this?
I couldn't even have said it better. And it's so tragic for a nation. Nigeria is a huge joke. We were discussing this before the review started. How can the CBN governor, who has a very big assignment in fixing the economy, how can he descend so low? I do not see it as progress for him. I see it as descending so low to want to be president of Nigeria. And then you are still in office. And this thing has proved one thing, that when you hear all this thing we call rumors, there's substance to them. When I started seeing the posters, I was like, what's wrong with this? Are they well? A whole CBN governor. And in the history of this country, I mean, you can remind me, Abdulaziz, this has never happened. It has never happened that a sitting CBN governor will suddenly wake up to become an aspirant. So, is he supposed to be partisan? That's the first question. He's not supposed to be partisan. Yes, he might have been appointed by the government, but you're not supposed to be partisan. And the economy does not belong to the APC, it belongs to the Nigerian people.
We also have the APC chair confirming that the CBN's governor's membership, he confirmed the CBN governor's membership, saying that he registered since February 2021.
So that means he should be sacked or he should resign. I mean, he should resign. He should be sacked or he should resign. It's not done anywhere. I've never had this. To the best of my recollection, I've never had this happen in this country. Even if he wants to join politics, he can finish his term and join politics. I think there's something happening. Governance has become so debased that everybody now thinks he can be president. You know? Everybody thinks he can be president. Yes, he can be president. You and I can be president in Nigeria anyway. So anything can happen, but everybody thinks that this is a window of opportunity because I am in government now. Let me use that advantage. Let me take advantage of it and become this or that. That's very unfortunate.
Talking of the many aspirants, especially for APC, which is the ruling party, which also campaign on the strength of bringing in change in terms of how things are done in Nigeria, and vis-a-vis the situation in the country, which we just finished lamenting, how do you reconcile this many number of people coughing out this huge amount of money to purchase the ruling party's nomination forms?
You know, we touched on it before, because at the end of the day, when you multiply 27 by 100 million,
that's 2.7 billion.
So, and then down the line up to the House of Assembly, governors are paying 50 million. It's going to, the APC as a political party is going to churn out it's going to make a lot of money. Then you ask yourself, what will this money be used for? This money will be used to rig election. I can bet you. This money will be used to rig election. So, and what was that, your question?
So the issue is, how do you reconcile the mantra of the APC of bringing change and all that, and then these people bring, and also the hardship in the country on one side, then on another side, the people coming out coughing this much amount of money to purchase the APC nomination forms?
But is it not laughable that we started with change and now we are here? I think everybody now knows that change was just an avenue for them to get into power, and when they got into power, they started behaving badly, worse than the people that the PDP that they supplanted. So, and then how do we reconcile it? That is the question. How can we say we do not have money to pay ASU people? We do not have money to do this and that. Yet we have an individual, because he's in government, has 100 million naira to buy a form to become president. And there can be only one president. What happens to the remaining money? So it means it will go into the purse of the ruling party, and what would they use it for? I think we should be asking questions. And then if the EFCC had not been, EFCC chairman had not been appointed by the current government, I would have said it should look that way. How the money will be spent.
The EFCC are saying
that their job is to look that way, even if they are appointed by the
EFCC is actually saying
on paper, but in reality, sometimes it doesn't work that way.
They're actually saying that, their eyes, they're actually watching to see. They're watching like a hawk to see the source of the money.
We are also watching to see how the EFCC will do it.
That's interesting. Watching the watcher. I remember. So still in the Punch newspaper, Nigeria loses 1.22 trillion to deficit oil production, according to reports. You know, this oil is still the mainstay of our economy, and then we have so many issues about revenue losses in that sector. And I remember the Ribadu report and the Mokode reports around the same time during the Jonathan presidency about curtailing, especially the Ribadu report was specifically about revenue, saving the revenues. What is it still recurrent? What is it? Who is? Are there some people benefiting from these losses, this bunkering and other things?
You can say that again. Of course, people are benefiting. And we said it here before. The people doing oil bunkering that are now reducing the revenues that are coming to the government are not low-level people. They are not you and I. It's people who are influential because they know when to clear the road for those who have gone into bunkering to either pass or sell whatever they have. So they are not small people. That's why it's so difficult. If it is low-level people, they perhaps would have been able to solve the problem. The people involved in oil bunkering are not, they are influential people in the society. Some of them are politicians. Some of them are business magnates. And, you know, my only concern about bunkering is the people that they use to do these things, so that whenever there's any explosion, you can imagine the number of people that will die. As we saw recently in Imo State, over 100 people just lost their life. But then the question that you should ask yourself, why would I be involved in such? Why would I allow myself to be used? Some of them, yeah, you may say greed is part of it, but some of them are also doing it out of desperation. So when you put all this together, you should not be surprised if our revenues are going down, because it's being filtered away, it's being reduced from the source, it's being affected by corruption, it's being stolen. People dip their hands in the cookie jars and take their own without commensurate punishment, and that's why people can easily bring out 100 million naira to buy forms, claiming, some of them claiming that they are electorate. The electorate in Nigeria must be very rich. That's the voters. Now that they can even afford to buy forms for their oppressors.
For their leaders.
Well,
you have something to add?
Yeah, let's just move on to more papers. Let's take the leadership newspaper, okay?
Right.
Now, the lead story talks about, ahead of party primaries, CSOs kick against aspirants' use of state resources for campaign. Is that possible?
Did I get you well?
Yes, CSOs kick against aspirants' use of state resources for campaign.
CSOs kick against aspirants.
Aspirants, okay.
Yes.
Use of state resources to campaign. That is maybe, for example, people in public offices, governors and ministers who are now aspiring for elective positions. Is it possible to, if I understand your question very well, is it possible to stop them from use of public resources for their personal political projects?
It's near impossible to stop them. But they will not say it's government resources or public fund. They will say their friends, they will empower their friends to do it on their behalf. So as difficult as it is, it's also difficult for the law to catch up on them. Then we even need more CSOs, not just CSOs, even with the media. We need to do more investigative stories and bring out where these sources, where these funds are coming from. But it's very, very difficult to track, even for the CSOs.
But I think there are even more visible such use of state resources. For example, like the vice president using a presidential jet to travel to states campaigning, reaching out to delegates, or even people who are ministers now taking maybe government convoys to travel and other things.
Very visible.
What about that?
Very visible. That one can easily be tracked.
So what do you do about that?
It has to be tested in court too. I mean, despite the fact that we now detest the judiciary, this thing has to be tested. The vice president does not have the right to use our own fund, as public fund, to do his presidential campaign. It's wrong, and as you said, even those that use all these convoys here and there to intimidate voters, intimidate those who will choose among them. And remember, that was why people were not happy that the president did not sign that electoral act that said people should resign like 3 months. So when you resign and you hand over everything, you can go and do whatever you want to do with your own fund. But then here again, we need to also need INEC to come in, if they have the law on their side, to monitor campaign funds. And I think SERAP has taken some of these cases to court. We need to try it in court and know what the law says about the use of public funds for private aspiration.
It seems like, what's happening in the political space is sort of uniting Nigerians, because we have, northern groups decrying the hijack of political space by the same actors. We have the Arewa Consultative Forum saying we don't want government of continuity. And we have Afenifera saying, or urging, electorates to beware of aspirants with empty promises.
Well, it's just history repeating itself. Empty promises have always been there because we do not ask questions. Even when we do, we're shut up. So I don't know what we can do about all this other than to go back to the Constitution and change a few things. But right now, the Constitution seems to favor those in government alone. So, and that's why people talk about decentralization of governance, devolution of power, restructuring, however you want to call it. The most important is that we need to weaken the center a bit and devolve more powers to so many other agencies of government so that people can be held in check. So well, as long as we operate this constitution, which ordinarily should not be a problem, but it's been abused here and there, then it means that we need to make some changes. But unfortunately, the people who should make those changes are the ones in government who are not ready to change the status quo ante.
Okay, I think we'll quickly move on to another newspaper. Let's take a look at today's Business Day newspaper, where the major story says border closure fails to curb smuggling as food prices soar. And I think you will remember that I think in 2018, when the federal government announced the closure on the land borders, one of the things that they mentioned is that they want to improve homegrown food supply so that maybe the prices of food will come down. But ironically, it has gone to the other side. So do we gain anything from closing the borders at all?
I haven't seen anything tangible. Maybe our petrol was no longer going to Niger Republic or Chad or Benin Republic. Maybe it did solve some problems.
But the subsidy money keep increasing, which means that our consumption...
There are so many contradictions in government that the more you see, the less you understand. So we do things to curb certain excesses, and those excesses, in actual fact, increase. So I don't know what that closure of borders, I don't know what it was able to achieve for us. Just like I do not know what rice pyramid did for us, what corn pyramid did for us. I thought when you do things like this, it's supposed to crash the market. But we never saw. I buy, as a woman, I go to the market, I buy. I did not see the effect of the rice pyramid. I did not see the effect of the maize or corn pyramid. So that same way, we did not see the effect of the border closure. Maybe sabotage, but what is government for? You are supposed to curb the sabotage now, if at all there is any. But when you look at faces, I said, oh, this one contributed to APC, this one is our friend. You will never get anywhere. You will just be rolling in one place. You will remain static. And in fact, the situation will be getting worse. So,
all right, so quickly.
Border closure, I don't know.
Okay. All right, so quickly let's take a look at the Abuja Inquirer, and we have a story that talks about Abuja Demolition turning bloody, and hoodlums injure police officers, hold others hostage, and the FCTA reviews enforcement strategies. Now, a lot of people, especially those living in urban slums in Abuja, have complained about the demolition, saying the cost of living in Abuja is high as it is. How are they supposed to afford, you know, accommodation, you know, and everything, considering that, you know, they came to Abuja for greener pastures?
I think we should just go to the basics. Why is everybody coming to Abuja? Why is there rural-urban migration? Because nothing works anymore in our rural setting. So when we now converge in Abuja, naturally you want a place that you can put your head or put your small shop. So and those so-called small shops, they constitute another menace to urban dwellers and the powers that be and government. And the FCDA has a huge responsibility in making sure that these urban slums do not grow to even overtake the plan, the Abuja master plan and all that. So while in the course of doing that, the people are pushing back. People are pushing back because they have like, okay, you did not provide us job as a government, you don't even know we exist, and now we're trying to fend for ourselves, and you are doing this. So they are pushing back, unfortunately, and even injuring
police officers
who are innocent in the whole arrangement, because you know that FCDA cannot demolish anywhere without security apparatus. So if it has got to a stage where those policemen are being injured, someday they'll be forced to start shooting.
That's true.
May that day never come. I mean, it will be bloody.
Yes, amen to that.
Okay, that's it. We pray so. That's been newspaper reviews on the show this morning with chairperson of Blueprint Newspapers editorial board, Hajia Zainab Okino. Thank you very much, madam, for making it to the studio, and we hope to have you again another time.
My pleasure.